Our guest today is Commissioner of the Department of Transportation. She was appointed by Mayor Emanuel just over 1 year ago. Our guest today has led the city's key transportation initiatives. Number one, an unprecedented amount of street repair and resurfacing. Two, major capital investments, such as the Chicago Riverwalk. Number three, the Bloomingdale Trail. Four, the Navy Pier flyover. And five, 2 new CTA stations. She is a Chicago native who earned her bachelor's degree from Brown University, her law and MBA degree from Northwestern University. But here's how smart she is. She has her husband here, Ben Siegel. Ben, say hi to everyone. Let everyone see it. And her family. Now, where is her family? Right here? Oh, right here. Thank you so much for coming today. What an honor. Commissioner Rebekah Scheinfeld. Rebekah?
Thank you, Jay, for the opportunity to address the City Club and share updates on the work that we're doing at the Chicago Department of Transportation. The work that we do is made possible by the great professional team at CDOT and the city as a whole, working closely with professional services organizations and construction services firms, as well as transportation advocacy firms, and many of whom are in the audience today. So I'd like to give a special recognition to my team and ask the CDOT team members that we have today to please stand. And I'd like to invite the other government employees who are here who are working with in partnership, Don Orsino and the Metro team, Carol Morey from CTA, and others that we're working with on a daily basis to bring these critical transportation investments to Chicagoans. City Club and the crowd it brings together is a great example of the real depth of civic engagement in this city that makes Chicago unique, and it makes me proud to serve our residents. CDOT is focused on realizing Mayor Emanuel's vision for a 21st century transportation system that is safe, efficient, effective, affordable, and innovative. Whether you are walking, biking, driving, or riding public transit, Chicagoans deserve world-class transportation options to get to work, school, and play. This means delivering major capital improvements on time and on budget, as well as making sure that we provide quality services to keep our streets safe and our neighborhoods vibrant. Mayor Emanuel is delivering on this promise and his commitment to building a new Chicago. In the last 4 years, we have made tremendous investment in our transportation infrastructure under his leadership, and he has worked tirelessly to secure local, state, and federal dollars for transportation, despite the lack of long-term, reliable funding streams at the state and federal levels. In the last 4 years, CDOT has expended $2.2 billion in infrastructure investments, creating an estimated more than 7,000 jobs, and making improvements that Chicagoans are experiencing daily. We have repaved nearly 1/4 of our city streets in the last 4 years alone in partnership with other city departments and private utilities. We have completed or commenced 15 bridge reconstruction projects. We've built 2 new L stations, implemented a successful divvy bike sharing system, completed 27 streetscapes and plaza improvements in our neighborhoods across the city. And that's just the type of work we're doing at CDOT. As you know, the CTA and the city's water department both are spending billions more rebuilding aging infrastructure. We are carefully coordinating this work to ensure the efficient use of taxpayers' dollars. Everyone is frustrated when newly paved streets are torn up for other work soon after. That's why, to prevent this, our project coordination office is using the latest mapping technologies to track and sequence all of this work in the public way to make sure we minimize disruption to residents and businesses. These coordination efforts have led to a savings of $47 million since 2012, allowing all of us to stretch our resources further. And anyone who's traveled the streets of Chicago recently knows there's a lot of work going on. But after many years of underinvestment, we know it's needed work, and we appreciate your patience. These short-term disruptions lead to long-term gains for the city now and generations to come. By improving our transportation systems and the public way, we improve quality of life for Chicagoans and lay the foundation for continued economic growth. We are working to provide people real options, safe, affordable, and efficient options for moving around this city. And we must also design transportation systems that are sustainable for the long term, to offer real solutions to our congestion problems and with enough capacity to handle growing demand. This is critical for neighborhood economic growth and keeping Chicago competitive in the global economy. Before we jump into details on our many exciting projects, I want to take this opportunity in front of this audience, and thank you all for being here, to highlight an issue that's important for me. I want to highlight our traffic safety issues. One of the most important measures of quality of life is safety. Do we feel safe crossing the street, driving around our neighborhoods, biking? And what about our most vulnerable, children, seniors, and the disabled? Are they safe on our streets? This is so basic, and that's why it's at the core of CDOT's mission and the work that we are doing. There are 80,000 traffic crashes a year in Chicago, 15,000 of which result in injury or fatality. In other words, each day there are 40 accidents happening on our streets that cause injuries. That's almost 2 an hour. And every year, an average of 125 people die from these crashes. That's not just people in motor vehicles, that's also pedestrians and bicyclists. These crashes and the resulting injuries and fatalities happen throughout the city, and they don't discriminate. They tear at the fabric of our communities. And while long-term trends indicate improvement, even one fatality is one too many. And that's why we have adopted a 0 in 10 effort with the goal to eliminate all traffic deaths in 10 years. It's part of an international movement that starts with the basic premise that a traffic crash is not an accident. It's a preventable incident. And so how do we do this? First, we all need to do our part. I ask all of you, when you drive, do you mind the speed limit and stop for pedestrians in crosswalks as the law requires? When you park, do you look for a bicyclist before you open your door? When you bike, do you follow the rules of the road and stop at red lights? And when you walk, do you respect the walk signal that's there to protect you and stay out of traffic? And what about those smartphones? We're all busy, but we need to put them down and be aware of our surroundings. We all need to do our part. Education and enforcement is the cornerstone of addressing traffic safety issues, and we are reaching almost 85,000 people each year through our targeted outreach. We are also improving safety through our planning and engineering, and we've adopted a complete streets policy for our projects. It's a promise that all users of the transportation system, pedestrians, bicyclists, transit riders, and motor vehicle drivers, can travel safely within the public way. With every project that we undertake, we have the opportunity to realize this vision. And addressing safety starts with neighborhood investments. We are continuing an aggressive capital program, but also maintaining the neighborhood services that are so important to quality of life in the city. In 2014, CDOT filled a record 920,000 potholes. And with Mayor Emanuel's commitment of another $10 million in our pavement maintenance budget, we are prepared for whatever Mother Nature has in store for us the rest of this year. In 2014, we repaved a total of 343 miles of streets in this city, together with other public agencies and private utilities. And in 2015, we will again pave at least 300 miles of streets. This puts us on course to pave 1,200 miles over the next 4 years. Putting that in perspective, that means over 8 years, starting in 2011, we will have repaved nearly half of the streets in our city in just 8 years. That's reaching every corner of the city, every neighborhood, every ward. And in the last 4 years, we've installed 1,000 blocks of new street lighting, responded to more than 300,000 calls for repairing our lighting and traffic signals, completed over 165,000 calls for service of our signage on our streets. We also are bringing renewed emphasis to the condition of our viaducts in the city to make sure that they are safe, clean, well-lit, so they become important connectors, not dividing lines between neighborhoods. This year, we will be fully reconstructing the sidewalks and roadways under 12 freight viaducts and replacing lighting at another 20 locations citywide. Also throughout the city, on a larger scale, we are reconfiguring outdated roadway infrastructure to address safety issues and meet modern needs for our next generation. At 130th and Torrence, this summer we will complete an ambitious $107 million reconfiguration of the intersection that has created an estimated 428 jobs. The project entails the removal of 2 at-grade crossings by creating grade separations between the freight tracks and 2 roadways. This will improve the flow and safety of all modes of transportation moving through this intersection: pedestrians, freight trains, bicyclists, and general motor vehicle traffic. This is a shining example of the success of the CREATE program, a partnership between the US DOT, State of Illinois, City of Chicago, Metra, Amtrak, and the nation's freight railroads to invest billions in critically needed improvements to increase the efficiency of the region's passenger and freight rail infrastructure. These projects also improve safety and quality of life in the communities impacted by this infrastructure. Also this year, we're excited to be starting work on the reconstruction of the Damen-Elston-Fullerton intersection, one of the most congested and dangerous intersections in this city. We will be constructing a new alignment of Elston that will relieve congestion and improve safety for drivers, buses, bicyclists, and pedestrians. The project will reinstate a more traditional grid of streets to spur economic development and community benefits. This is a $21 million project. It's anticipated to create 68 jobs. We're also continuing to remove outdated infrastructure. In 2014, we completed the removal of the old overpass on Ashland over Pershing. And this year, we will begin the removal of the old overpass along Western over Belmont and Clybourn. It's a notorious. This is an estimated $36 million project that is anticipated to create 128 jobs. This reconfiguration will improve traffic flow with modernized signal system and reestablish the scale and the fabric of the grid of neighborhood streets that are currently underneath that viaduct structure. In 2015, we'll also be continuing the planning for the redesign of the north half of Lakeshore Drive, which we are doing in conjunction with IDOT. Following on the successful reconstruction of the south half of the drive and the extension of US 41 to the south to 92nd Street, we've been engaging communities along the north half to help us envision how the iconic roadway can serve the next generation. Citywide, we're also spearheading pedestrian improvement projects that encourage healthy, active transportation options. As Jay mentioned, we've been hard at work on the Riverwalk, which is transforming the south bank of the Chicago River into a new recreational frontier in the heart of downtown by building into the river. This is being financed with a $98 million federal TIFIA loan secured by the mayor and is estimated to create more than 370 jobs. This spring, we will be opening the segment from State Street to LaSalle, and we'll be beginning work on the last phase from LaSalle to Lake, which will be done by the end of 2016. We also continue to work to design places that residents desire and where businesses thrive. Through our Make Way for People initiative, we are activating underutilized spaces in our communities with seating areas and programming that promote walkable communities and support local businesses. This spring, we'll be starting construction on a new shared street design for Argyle between Broadway and Sheridan in the Uptown neighborhood, where innovative design will create a more pedestrian-friendly, plaza-like environment, changing the mood of the street and helping the Argyle business community further define itself as a go-to destination. We're also improving connections between communities with investments in pedestrian and biking infrastructure. On the south side, over the next 2 years, we'll have 4 bridge projects underway at 31st, 35th, 41st, and 43rd Streets that improve links between the Bronzeville and Kenwood neighborhoods to the lakefront, connections that have been lacking for way too long. This will total an estimated nearly $90 million in investment that is expected to generate more than 300 jobs. We're also very excited to be in the home stretch of the construction of the Bloomingdale Trail, which is the centerpiece of the 606 Park system on the northwest side. The trail will open in June, providing a 2.7-mile elevated multi-use path for pedestrians and bicyclists, built over an old elevated rail line that once served to divide communities. The 606 will provide an alternative transportation corridor and much-needed green space for the communities of Hermosa, Humboldt Park, Logan Square, and Wicker Park, and the project is creating an estimated 264 jobs during construction alone. Next, we're working to identify more rails to trails opportunities in other neighborhoods, including Englewood, Pilsen, and Little Village. Projects like these are one of the ways that we are maintaining our momentum to turn Chicago into one of the most bike-friendly cities in the country. We are on track to fulfill the mayor's pledge to install 100 miles of protected bike lanes this spring. With community input, we will continue to upgrade and strengthen our 225-mile network of bikeways in the city, improving connections between bikeways to ensure that those who want to bike more have real, safe options to do so. I'm also pleased to report that our Divvy bike sharing system continues to grow. We currently have nearly 23,000 members, and riders have taken more than 3 million trips, with upwards of 12,000 trips average daily in the summertime. We are on track to expand further this spring, to have 475 stations and 4,750 bikes, pushing the geographic reach to 75th Street on the south, Pulaski on the west, and Touhy on the north, making our system one of the largest in North America. Divvy has also proven to be a great complement to our CTA rail station. And with that, I'd like to take this opportunity to showcase some of the things we've been doing in partnership with the CTA. We're pleased to continue to partner with them on so many initiatives for both the rail and bus system. I think of CTA as one of our biggest clients. And under Mayor Emanuel's leadership, we've seen a record amount of investment on the CTA, and it's exciting to be a part of that transformation. Last month, we opened the new Cermak-McCormick elevated station, addressing a 2.5-mile gap in coverage in the Green Line. This will serve the burgeoning South Loop, historic Motor Row area, and McCormick Place. The $50 million station created an estimated 176 jobs, and we expect it will stimulate transit-oriented development in the surrounding area, similar to what has happened around the new Morgan station in the West Loop. And this month, we will begin work on a new elevated station on the east side of the loop at Washington and Wabash, which will replace two 100-year-old stations at Madison and Randolph. The new station and its striking canopy design will be a gateway to the many destinations on the east side of the loop. The modern station will also provide a better customer experience with larger platforms for more capacity and elevators. Currently, there's no elevated station on the east side of the loop, and this will finally bring that much needed accessibility to the elevated. I'd like to finish by describing in more detail an exciting and critical project that we are about to break ground on, that together with the new Washington-Wabash station will have a transformative effect on downtown transit. Congestion has been an issue downtown for decades, and this particularly affects CTA buses and the many people riding those buses. Congestion causes unreliable and slow service, making bus riding less appealing and service delivery more costly for the CTA. For example, along Washington, in the heart of the loop, almost half of the people in vehicles are on buses, yet those buses are often moving as slow as the people walking on the sidewalk. I want to underscore a point here. Buses are really important to this city. People often focus on the L, but more than half of CTA rides, near about 900,000 a day, are citywide on buses. Buses keep our city working, and a strong bus network is critical to our continued economic growth and access to jobs and job creation across this city. Great transit options are especially important downtown, where 500,000 jobs are located, and 60% of commuters rely on mass transit to get to those jobs. Investments in transit are about getting to people to work and to their jobs faster and getting them home to their families more quickly at night. Transit is also relied on by students going to school, seniors going to the doctor, Chicagoans heading to shop downtown on State Street or to experience Millennium Park. Downtown transit investments are also critical to support tourism. Tourists exploring Chicago are on the bus, as well as those who do the hard work in the hotels and the restaurants to make sure Chicago's a great place to visit. Mayor Emanuel has set a goal to reach 55 million tourists by 2020, which will bring tens of thousands of jobs and millions of dollars in local investment. And we must have the transit capacity to support this economic growth. Under Mayor Emanuel's leadership, CDOT has been working in partnership with the CTA. President Forrest Claypool, who is not here today, but I always want to thank for convincing me to come back into public service and has been doing tremendous work at the CTA. And I'm really pleased to be able to continue that partnership in my new role at CDOT. With CDOT and CTA partnering and with the support of transportation advocates and foundations, we've been working to improve bus service citywide, to provide faster, more reliable, high-capacity transit options for this city. These efforts are resulting in a spectrum of investments under the larger umbrella of bus rapid transit, combining the flexibility of bus service with the investments in technology and infrastructure to improve the performance and capacity of the bus system. 2 years ago, CDOT and CTA implemented the city's first steps towards bus rapid transit in the South Shore neighborhood along Jeffrey Avenue with the Jeffrey Jump service that made a faster and more reliable commute for folks coming from the south side in their daily commute to downtown. Yet when those south side commuters get downtown, they still get stuck in the same traffic. During the evening rush hour, it currently takes the Jeffrey Jump as long to get across 1 mile of the loop as it does to go 7 miles from downtown to 67th. The problem of how to improve circulation of transit riders around the loop has been identified for years. Lots of good ideas have been put forward. People have been planning for it, but it's never been tackled. And now, with Mayor Emanuel's leadership, we are finally taking a big step in the right direction. On March 16th, we will begin construction of the Loop Link, which will create a modern transportation corridor across the loop. You may have heard this project called the Central Loop Bus Rapid Transit Project, or the Central Loop East-West Connector. We are branding the project as the Loop Link to convey the benefits that it will bring: improved connectivity, fluid movement, simplicity. The Loop Link will improve connections across the loop as well as between neighborhoods and the larger transportation network and job centers. So what is the Loop Link? It's not a new bus. It's a modern, innovative design of key segments of Washington, Madison, Clinton, and Canal, from the transportation hubs in the West Loop to the east side of the loop, that will prioritize bus movements, moving more people downtown faster and with better reliability. The Loop Link will improve service to 6 existing CTA routes that come to and from all corners of the city: South Shore, Little Village, Pilsen, Austin, Garfield Park, Logan Square, just to name a few of the neighborhoods that they reach. This improvement will benefit tens of thousands of people a day who are riding these buses along the loop segments, but the service improvements downtown will also support more reliable service along the entire length of these routes and reaching into the neighborhoods, benefiting more than 60,000 people a day. And this project doesn't add any cost to the CTA. It's the opposite. It uses CTA's existing fleet and existing routes and speeds them up, making them more dependable for those who ride today, and if we do it right, more attractive to build more ridership as we go along. On Washington and Madison, instead of a standard bus stop and shelter, bus customers will experience a high-quality station that is raised to provide level boarding for easier, quicker access for all. The stations will have plenty of seating, bus tracker screens, and extended canopies to protect you from the elements. The stations will be built along the existing curb line. By putting the bus stations in the street, the Loop Link will make more room on the sidewalks for the heavy pedestrian traffic downtown. On the street, we are creating a dedicated red bus lane to prioritize bus service, and buses will also get early green lights at several key intersections. With these dedicated lanes, improved boarding stations, and traffic signal investments, we expect the Loop Link to greatly improve the speed and reliability of buses crossing the loop. We think that this prioritization of bus service doesn't have to come at the expense of those who need or choose to drive. Great efforts have been made in the designs to manage the needs of traffic without compromising the transit improvements that we're trying to achieve. On each street, 2 lanes of regular traffic will always be available, and we're adding turn arrows and turn bays and making other signal improvements that will help clear intersections and minimize conflicts between bus, traffic, bike, and pedestrians that are often the cause of slow traffic today. The Loop Link will also include more dedicated biking facilities along Washington and Randolph and a 2-way cycle track on Clinton, which is similar to what you see on Dearborn today. And along these corridors, bicyclists will have dedicated traffic signals. Separating bikes from both auto and bus traffic creates an order to the street that gives all users of the roadway a safer, more reliable means of travel. And one of the most congested portions of this corridor is at the west end, around Union Station, which serves more than 120,000 people a day, where the surrounding streets are often a confusing mix: pedestrians, taxis, CTA buses, intercity buses, all jockeying for space along the curb and in the street. This spring, we will break ground on the new off-street bus facility for CTA customers known as the Union Station Transit Center, and this will anchor the Loop Link corridor on the west. The facility will be built on the southwest corner of Jackson and Canal, where there's currently a surface parking lot, and it will provide more space for CTA buses and CTA customers, as well as a direct, fully accessible connection down to the pedway that links to the concourse level at Union Station to provide weather-protected access to people transferring to and from CTA buses and Metro or Amtrak. Also, on the block of canal between Jackson and Adams, we will be redesigning the curb-to-curb to include an airport-style pickup and drop-off island for cars and taxis separate from the bus and regular traffic lanes. These improvements around Union Station are some of the first key investments we are making to modernize this transportation hub that is the third busiest rail terminal in the country. We are continuing to work with Metra, Amtrak, and the state of Illinois to develop long-range plans to overhaul Union Station to meet growing ridership demand, create jobs, and ensure that it remains a thriving transportation center to support our economy. Oops. Union Station Transit Center, the Loop Link, and the new Washington-Wabash L Station are game-changing investments that put us on the right path for transit downtown and support our continued economic growth across the city. Together, these projects represent more than $150 million investment that we expect to create 650 jobs, and they are being built by Chicago-based firms, further supporting job growth for local residents. They are great examples of Mayor Emanuel's commitment to making critical transportation investments that support quality of life and spur economic growth. And it has and will continue to take partnerships between the public and private sectors to make these happen. So I thank you for your interest and attention today, and I thank you in advance for your support of these projects and your help in making them a success going forward. Thank you very much. I'd be happy to take questions.
If you have questions, not RFPs, we have some of our people there. Raise your hand. If you have a question, the forms are on your table. And while we're waiting, very impressive presentation, so let me throw in the first, what can we call it, beanball. Somebody on television Sunday labeled Governor Rauner's budget the Attila the Hun budget because he's trying to plunder all local governments. If that budget goes through, how will it affect transit in Chicago?
Mayor Emanuel has made it clear that balancing the state budget on the backs of mass transit is unacceptable. And as I've laid out in the speech today, investments in transit, not just maintaining our current baseline, but continuing to make more investments in our infrastructure and our levels of service are critical to continuing economic growth and making sure that our region is competitive both in the country and globally.
Good answer to a sandbag question. Sorry, Harry. Okay. Caitlin Bleach, what a great name. From Jacobs. Where are you, Caitlin? All right. Well, now we'll make it easier. How important is a long-term federal funding program? I guess to your department or in general.
Having certainty about long-term funding for transportation at the federal and the state level is really important so that we can plan and make sure that we're using our resources efficiently. We use our limited local dollars to leverage a tremendous amount of state and federal funds, and so those partnerships are critical for moving forward the agenda that we're continuing to implement and I laid out today. And we're looking forward over the next 12 months. We think there'll be a lot more momentum at both the state and federal level, hopefully a capital bill, as well as the need to reauthorize a long-term federal surface transportation bill. So we think the momentum is there, and we're looking forward to finding better solutions for long-term funding streams.
Okay. Now let's get down to some serious stuff here. Not that that wasn't serious. Where is this character named Lee Crandall? Where are you? There you are. All right. This is in the City Club style that we like. Give me a second. This is a real goodie. You ready? I hope I can read it. The millennial generation has very different needs and desires for our streets compared to the prior generations, which are well represented in this room and in government. Too bad you're sitting over there. The exit's over there, young lady. She goes on. How can we reconcile differing visions to ensure the infrastructure well, the printing isn't all that good. We're getting today will work for the next generation who inherit it. Fair enough? All right. Good luck.
Thanks, Lee. I hope my long presentation today impressed on you at least one thing, and that is the diversity of responsibilities that CDOT has. And so I see the different generational demands as just one more facet of that diversity. We are working to make sure that we are benefiting the diverse needs of communities across the city through our Complete Streets policy. We are thinking about all the different types of users, the different types of modes, as well as different ages and different demands. All of these fundamental investments in our aging infrastructure are going to be for coming generations. But in every generation, you're going to have the mix of generations, if you will, and different ages and different levels of ability. So it's an incumbent on us to make sure that we are not just designing for one sort of constituency's needs, but thinking about a balanced program that's really providing real options for everybody.
Great. Give her a round of applause. Don't worry, you'll never ask another. You could ask him, it'll never be read. Since all politics is local, why not all transportation? I hope you can answer this one. If not, John Hammerschlag. Where are you, John? Okay, I assume you're still here. After this, oh, way in the back. Okay. Property owner. That's his title. Will there be northbound turning restrictions on Madison Street leg of the BRT?
On Madison?
That's, take a second to read it. John's never lied before.
There will be a limited number of changes to the turning movements across the loop to ensure that where regular car travel is not going to conflict with buses that are stopping at the station and crossing across the bike lane. So on westbound Madison, there will be restrictions at Wacker and at Dearborn, but those are relatively low volume turning, and we've been working carefully with stakeholders all along the corridors of the 4 streets that are part of the Loop Link project to make sure that we are accommodating needs both for loading and other uses so that we can continue to ensure that there are reliable movements for all modes across the loop.
Our good pal Steve Schlickman. Steve, where are you? All right. UIC Urban Transportation Center. I heard UIC is a college, right? Wasn't sure. Mark Donovan's not here. What the hell? Here's the question. What are the city's plans for extending the loop link to other parts of the central area?
Right now, we're focusing on making sure that we get this right. This is a tremendous amount of investment and a critical anchor for thinking about how to prioritize bus movements across the city in critical corridors. So at this point, Loop Link is what's first on our agenda, but we do have several planning studies underway to think about other parts of the city that could benefit from higher capacity transit options. Some of you may be involved with a study we're doing in the River North Streeterville area, which is looking at how we can use investments in transit to address the growing congestion problem there for the many institutions and jobs and other destinations in that crowded area.
Okay. Ed Hoffman, where are you? I did not tell you to write this question, right? This is on your own? Okay. Those of you who heard the charge of the bike brigade by many years ago, here we go. Ed Hoffman. You ready for this, Rebecca? The Chicago Municipal Code, as we all know, Chapter 9, Section 52. This is right here. States unequivocally that operators of bicycles are required to follow the same rules of the road as other motor vehicles. That's the older generation. How and when is cyclist liability for accidents caused by their how and when is cyclist liability for accidents caused by their negligence going to be acknowledged and enforce instead of the current automatic default guilt and liability for the drivers. You're given one mulligan, Rebecca. This could be the...
Well, I do recognize my former colleagues from Mayor Brown are here, but I will say that my status as an attorney right now, I'm inactive with ARDC, so I'm not going to comment on the negligence question. But what I will say is what I said in my speech, which is that everybody has to do their part to improve traffic safety issues. No one is immune from this. Whether you're crossing the street or you're driving down the street, you have to think about your responsibilities moving through the public way. And so bicyclists have the same obligation to respect the rules of the road that drivers do in respecting bicyclists are also on our roads and that they have rights. It's about the intersection of people who always, it takes two, right? Everyone has perception bias that they're always doing everything right. But we need to ask ourselves that hard question. We need to pay attention and we need to be careful because lives are at stake. And one thing that we've been doing is a lot of targeted outreach and enforcement. We are reaching people through our bike ambassadors and safe routes ambassadors. We meet with block clubs, school children, elementary school, high school. We're getting out and with the police department and doing targeted enforcement events for bicyclists, for drivers, to make sure that people are following the rules of the road and that they know the rules of the road so that we can improve safety in the city for everybody.
A couple of more questions, a couple of heavy hitters. The newly re-elected Alderman of the Fighting 49th, Alderman Joe Moore. Congratulations on your major accomplishments. Please share your thoughts on the city red light camera program. Boy, if there was a runoff, that question wasn't going to be asked, right? Especially the Tribune study, which appears to indicate they don't reduce collisions. Remember, you'll need his vote.
As the mayor has said clearly, the red light camera enforcement program is about saving lives, and similar programs have been adopted in hundreds of cities across the country. Mayor Emanuel has taken real steps to ensure that we are managing this program carefully and with increased oversight. We fired the former vendor. We've adopted much stronger management controls. We have a much stronger contract with the current vendor and much better infrastructure and technology that is managing the program. And we're continuing to review the program on a daily basis, and we have many important investments that we have made, and we're going to continue to support the program.
Just two more questions. We have another one from the Jacobs Group. We only allow one question per company. I'm sorry. Matt Stedel, S-T-E-D-L, right? Right there. The Green Impact Partners, no connection. All right. I'll just ask the first part. What is being done to address excessive noise from elevated trains, especially along Lake Street?
Thinking about how the extensive freight rail infrastructure, as well as the CTA infrastructure, impacts our neighborhoods on a daily basis is an important part of the work that we do. We work carefully with the CTA to continue to make investments in that infrastructure. I think, frankly, by design, the elevator and the loop, that's always the challenge, and that's been the perennial question. But under CTA's President Forrest Claypool, they've been investing tens of millions of dollars into improving track and structure citywide. And on the freight side, we're continuing to work with the freight rails to make sure that those viaduct infrastructure and other types of freight rail infrastructure in the city do not have negative effects on our communities. And we're working to ameliorate situations where they're impacting quality of life and making investments in that infrastructure to improve quality of life.
The final question, and this is from our own Mary Sue Barrett, Metropolitan Planning Council, right over there. Can you talk about modernization of Union Station now that the nearby street level traffic is being fixed?
As I mentioned, Union Station is a critical driver for the regional economy, serving 120,000 people a day. And as many of you may be familiar, CDOT has been playing a facilitation role in a master planning process that has involved many stakeholders, public and private sector. Metra has been a strong partner in that. Amtrak is a very strong partner, the state of Illinois, and also planning organizations and advocacy organizations, including MPC. And thank you, Mary Sue, for your support. All of these efforts are amounting to specific plans for over $500 million worth of needed investment there to make sure that we have the capacity at the track level, as well as the customer-facing improvements that are so important to making the station a good experience every day and to handle the capacity of people that are waiting there, as well as to revitalize that area of the West Loop and really provide an anchor and spur additional economic development. So working on Union Station is something that we are continuing to do. It's going to take a real partnership. Amtrak and Metra have been great partners in the state of Illinois, and we have great momentum right now. So I'm looking forward to continuing to work carefully as a team to move this forward.
How about a big round of applause? Great job.